I can't handle Keir Starmer interviews. They are pointless, and the guy never answers any questions. Despite this, it's good to see that some of MSM are actually calling out his BS and lies in TV interviews. In today's video, surprisingly, we have a Keir Starmer interview on Sky where he is grilled over lying about the budget. His answer? Well, you guessed it, a big fat nothing burger as he stutters around it. Let's watch this mess, but first hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and join our fast-growing community. So let's get into the real interview. I warn you, it's another hard watch.
For years, you told voters that Labour would fix public services, not by tax rises or borrowing, but from growth. And yesterday's budget completely undermined, ran totally counter to that argument and that promise. Why should people trust you?
What we did in the budget yesterday was do the only thing that a responsible government would do, which was to fix the damage that we inherited, particularly the £22 billion, which was unaccounted for on the books, to stabilise the economy and to invest in the future. And what that gives us is an NHS capable and able to do the 40,000 extra appointments every week, which will bring the waiting list down. What that gives us is schools with the teachers and the infrastructure they need to make sure every child can go as far as their talents will take them. What that gives us is the ability now to build the houses that are desperately needed across the country.
Prime Minister,
I think most people would say they're the right priorities, the right choices for the country.
Prime Minister, you're conveniently forgetting the central argument you made ahead of the election. That was why growth was going to pay for public services. That is why you argued that Labour could be trusted. That is why you argued you were different from Jeremy Corbyn. And now you've just forgotten about that argument.
Not at all. This is a budget for growth. And as you'll see from the growth forecasts, the significant growth in the early years, it flattens a bit, and then over 10 years there's growth again. That's not the height of our ambition. Out of account yesterday in the budget, necessarily out of account, acceptably out of account, is what we're going to do on planning, what we're going to do on regulation. So what we're seeing on growth is the first step, if you like, of our ambition. We're going to build on that because growth is our number one mission. Stabilising the economy is the best way to get that growth. And if you look at what businesses are doing, we had a very important investment summit just 2 weeks ago, which triggered £63 billion worth inward investment into our country, which will be measured in jobs across the whole country.
What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. In some other news, Conservative leadership contender Kemi Badenoch has launched a scathing attack on Labour's recent budget, claiming it will destroy jobs and lead to lower wages. Speaking in an interview, Badenoch criticised the government's economic plans, describing them as terrible for entrepreneurs and small businesses. The former minister argued that the budget's approach to employers' national insurance contributions would have devastating consequences for the job market and workers' pay packets. Badenoch specifically highlighted concerns about the budget's impact on employers' national insurance contributions. She stated in the interview, "What they have done on employers' NI is going to destroy jobs. It is going to lower wages. People will not see pay rises." The former minister claimed that employment, disposable income and salaries would all be lower under Labour than they were under the Conservatives. She cited the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, saying it had basically said that Labour have chosen tax over growth. Badenoch added that 75% of employers' NI is going to be passed on in lower wages. Chancellor Rachel Reeves unveiled her first budget, raising taxes to a historic high and increasing borrowing. The plan includes £40 billion a year in extra taxes, with funds allocated to schools, hospitals, transport and housing. Key points from the autumn budget include a major increase in employers' national insurance contributions. The rate will rise by 1.2 percentage points to 15%, while the threshold at which employers start making contributions will fall from £9,100 to £5,000. The national living wage will increase by 6.7% to £12.21 per hour, and the minimum wage for 18 to 20-year-olds will rise by 16.3% to £10 an hour. Badenoch issued a stark warning about voting for parties other than the Conservatives. She stated, "Voting anything other than Conservative gives you Labour. You vote Liberal Democrat, you get Labour. You vote Reform, you get Labour." The leadership contender also expressed her views on Labour's current leadership. She claimed, "This is not Tony Blair's Labour. This is Jeremy Corbyn's Labour with Keir Starmer fronting it." Badenoch argued that many voters who expected a benign Labour Party would be surprised, saying the party is coming after their pensions, it's coming after their income, it's coming after their businesses. Lastly, the first of dead of a summer rioter in prison has sparked questions surrounding his imprisonment and why his suicide attempts were not taken seriously. Casey Lynch has demanded an investigation into his father's 2 previous suicide attempts were not addressed sooner, before the inmate was suspected of taking his own life. An inquest into the grandfather's death heard that Lynch died from hanging at HMP Moorland, South Yorkshire, on October 19th. He had been initially jailed for taking part in the riots outside a Holiday Inn Express, which accommodated asylum seekers, where he yelled "scum" and "child killers" at police officers. He was later sentenced to 2 years and 8 months at Sheffield Crown Court. Requesting further information regarding the investigation into his father's death, Casey Lynch said, "I'd like it to be investigated whether my dad should have been there in the first place." Additionally, he asked if the coroner could locate the judge's sentencing because he wanted to know what remarks he made about my dad on sentence. He also wanted to know why his father's 2 previous suicide attempts were not taken seriously by the necessary authorities. Former prison governor Ian Atchison said, "Any death in custody is a tragedy. Not all can be prevented. However, the profile of this offender, rightly jailed for his role in rioting, suggests to me he ought to have at least been considered as a suicide risk. The investigation, which must take place after a fatal incident in a prison, will need to explore this in relation to his vulnerability and care." Casey Lynch and his family were assured that their input would be considered during a full investigation, while she encouraged the rioter's son to provide the questions his family wanted to have answered. Peter Lynch was jailed in August for taking part in the Rotherham riots, after a film retrieved from body-worn camera footage showed him shouting at police, saying, "You are protecting people who are killing our kids and raping them." Along with over 60 other men, he was jailed at Sheffield Crown Court after the riots that left 64 police officers, several dogs and a horse injured. Outside the hotel that was housing about 240 asylum seekers, rioters attempted to set alight a bin, while the others spent their time smashing the hotel building, leaving staff terrified. Addressing Lynch during his sentencing, Judge Richardson said, "You did not yourself attack any police officer, as far as can be detected, but what you did was encourage by your conduct others to behave violently, and you were part of this mob." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British political content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.